Apparently, during World War II in Sweden at the border with Norway, the number 77 was used as a password because apparently it's a very tricky pr- word to pronounce in Swedish. So when somebody said the number 77, they could quickly figure out if somebody was either Swedish, Norwegian, or German. Do you kind of cool, right?
Pretty cool.
Episode 77 PHP Ugly. That's all I got for you guys.
That's kind of weak.
Well, he's been busy.
Last week was like a 12-minute intro into the show. This one is like
I was
seconds.
I was bound and determined not to use a year again. I wouldn't even look at years. I think I'd done 3 years in a row. I'm like, I'm not doing years. I need to come up with something else. So that's what I came up with. And I fell back to my other crutch, which was Wikipedia. I just got something off Wikipedia.
Yeah, it works.
That's all I have.
At least you put
Gentlemen,
some effort in.
Thomas, John, how are you? How are you guys doing? Yeah, when's the last time you came up with the intro?
The week you
John?
were gone.
We're not
The week you were
allowed.
gone.
Oh yeah, that's true. That was like a month ago.
The one time you missed, somebody had to.
This is very true. All right, I'll give you that one. So we did
listen to it. Just saying.
We did Larry
Larry chat. It's just a bunch of Larrys get
69 was
together.
probably the best one for me to miss too. I tell you. So we did Larry Chat live again today,
I saw that.
Finally.
Very nice, very nice. So that was good. Larry Chat live, the Larry Chat live podcast is a tough one for me because they record at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which is like right at the end of work, and it's like your day's winding down, and you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel that the day is coming to an end. And then you got to do that podcast. It's like, oh, I don't know if I have it in me. But then I get in there and start talking to everyone, and I'm like, God, I so enjoy these conversations. Unlike this one where I have to drink heavily to participate in it.
Now, here's the real question. Did you get a chance to promote Wave PHP?
They asked me about it, and we talked about it for a good probably 5 minutes. It was was a good. Holy crap! The office manager just comes bursting into my office like SWAT here. Lay down. What are you doing? I gotta get the office manager under control. Hold on one second. Lay down. All right. I don't know what that was about. All right.
Yeah,
So,
being attacked by that monster in there.
So lots of talking about Wave, and I'm starting to get it's fun to talk to people about Wave because I'm starting to get that sense that certain people are getting excited about the conference or the idea of the conference and are starting to anticipate it. So that's good to hear. I'm very happy to hear that.
That brings me to my first annoyance of the week. We're trying to get wavephp.com email set up so we can start, getting an email list going and all that good stuff. And somebody has it assigned to their Google account. We don't know if it's one of our accounts, which we've looked at them all. We can't find it. So we've tried adding it, and you can't prove you own it just by a DNS change or a website change, at least automatically. You have to contact their customer support. I do that this weekend and get a call from them, which I think, great. They're on top of it. I do the website change. They know I own it. And he says, all right, 72 hours, it's yours. We'll contact whoever has it currently assigned to their account. And if they don't release it, we'll do it manually. And here it is almost a week later, and it's still not done. On top of that, they emailed me today saying, hey, we haven't heard from you in 3 days. If we don't hear from you soon, we're just going to close the ticket. It's like, I'm waiting on you. What the heck?
Yeah.
So annoying.
I know. it's and the whole all we're trying to do is get email set up. I mean, we have control over the DNS. We own the domain, so we control all that. We're just trying to leverage Google for email, and we can't get the domain configured within Google because they see it as already assigned to another account.
And I think I need that all set up before I can start setting up their mailing lists and all that good stuff. So it's like, this is a key piece that we need to keep moving forward, even though we have a year left.
But we gotta get those sponsor letters out. That's what I'm stressing about. We worked on sponsor packages. We got pretty comfortable with the tiers we came up with, and want to start getting that out there. Hoping to get some commitments would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario, we'll just go with another email provider, but it would just be very convenient to be able to use Google in one of our existing accounts.
Yeah, and which brings me back to another point of, I want to say I'm sorry, Madison PHP. You know, we were trying to find a good time frame for the conference that would fit, you know, with all the other conferences out there, and we had a time frame set up that we thought was perfect. That fell through. The hotel we really wanted came back to us with another date range, the September 19th through the 21st that we have in 2018. And they said that's the last option. That's all we have. And we took it and didn't go back and look at our list of other conferences, and didn't realize we're so close to Madison PHP. Did not mean to step on toes at all. So I feel so bad about that.
Yeah, we made it a conscious effort to kind of space our conference out when we did our initial round of kind of getting these hotels and pitching the dates. And I'm sure Madison PHP understands as well. It's like once you get in there and you start going through the agreements and, you know, nailing down these dates, things change a little bit, and that's what happened to us. Our dates got shifted a couple times, and what we ended up settling on, when we settled on it, it never occurred to us to go back to our spreadsheet that we had been keeping just to see where we fell kind of in the conference season of everybody else. And yeah, like John said, it does bump up against Madison a little bit more than we want. And but again, I'm sure they're understanding. And yeah,
well, and they don't have their schedule for 2018 up yet. I mean, do you know that they have commitments for the 2018 event?
No, not yet. I mean, they probably wouldn't be starting until after the conference.
Who are these chumps anyways?
They're friends of the show. I really like Beth Tuckerlong. I know she's one of the organizers of it, and so we definitely didn't mean to do that, and kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But
it's weird though how earlier, before we started recording, you were talking about how hilarious it was that we had done that, and that it was almost like you'd done it intentionally. I guess I didn't understand what you were talking about until just now. So in case our listeners don't know, I'm not directly affiliated with Wave PHP at all, but
or with any of us.
Yeah. But it did make me panic the other day. The other day I was watching a TV show and I started thinking about what goes into getting a set ready for a TV show and organizing, like, when the podium is out and when the lights go up and when the music comes on, and then I just started like breathing heavily and going, oh god.
Wait, were you watching the Emmys?
No. The lowest rated Emmys ever. Sad. What a disappointment. I didn't see that. I got a little flustered when I realized the work that you guys are gonna have to do, and then realized I'm not gonna have to do any of it, and relaxed a little.
Thanks, we appreciate that.
Someone has to relax for you guys. You guys aren't gonna be able to relax.
Moved away, so you didn't have to help us with it, right?
Yeah.
What a guy.
So yeah, we're still in this weird, awkward. I mean, we're doing a couple things. Like I said, we're getting the sponsor packages out, making a few tweaks to the website here and there, but we're still kind of in this dead period of not really anticipating a lot happening until the beginning of next year. But it should be fun. My question is, I was thinking about it today. So what day? Today is the 20. So we're recording on the 21st of September. That made the 19th on Tuesday. So from last Tuesday, Wave PHP conference is a year away. So today we actually would be wrapping up. Today would have been the last day of Wave PHP. So a year from today, John and I will be sitting at a bar, probably drinking heavily,
crying openly,
being happy that really contemplating what we had gotten into.
Sweatpants and a tank top.
My question is, we have done all this planning so far ahead, and I realize that technically we should be planning Wave PHP 2019 now, if we want to give ourselves the same runway we did for 2018.
Yeah, that's true. You should start freaking out early.
I'm just thinking, so what? We're gonna get through this conference.
Why are you saying that? I mean, we're still planning 2018. Why do we got to start planning 2019 now?
Because when did we start?
It's really
think about when we started. Think about when we started planning 2018. We started when we started engaging with the hotels and stuff, it was probably 4 or 5 months ago?
No, not even. I mean, it was a few months ago. It was right around Laracon.
Well, by Laracon, we had toured the hotels and settled on a hotel.
We did that when we got back from Laracon.
Okay. My point being, that is a year and X months out from the conference. So we are a year X months out from I forgot the math now.
All right, calm down. Let's get through 2018. Let's make sure
this is my point. This is what I'm stressing about, is do we get through 2018 and then have to jump right back into it?
No, because I think we've already got a lot of the groundwork laid. It's just a matter of, at that point, deciding if you're going to do it again. And then you start down that path, signing contracts and all that.
Here's something I'm excited about. I'm going to be there. No question. I'm going to be at Wave PHP. You guys are going to be there. We're going to have to do a podcast during the conference, period.
Okay.
But see, it'll be the two
Not
of you.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, it'll be the two of you in the midst of the chaos of running the event.
Which means we don't have to do it.
Me, totally relaxed, interviewing you guys.
Sounds like
asking you how it's going. Asking you what's been the hardest thing so far. Just poking both of you as much as I can.
I'm
very excited. Very excited.
Sounds like it. So did you book your hotel yet then? No. You can do that, by the way, now. Go to
Wave. Get your blind early bird special. It's the cheapest you're going to pay for a ticket, Thomas.
I'm making my boss pay full price.
Oh, I like how you think. I was actually giving you a hard time, but I like where you're going with that. Yeah.
No, I've told him that as the senior PHP developer, I'm making attendance mandatory for everyone in the office, and tickets don't go on sale until June next year.
There you go, full price. A funny side note to Wave PHP, we kind of hesitantly created a Wave PHP front page. Holy smokes, Facebook page. Just kind of made sense, so went ahead and did it. And I was trying to customize the URL so that it read Wave PHP. And Facebook, no matter what variation of the name I gave it, whenever I added the letters PHP, would not accept it. Said that it contained a word not permitted in Facebook URLs or names.
Makes sense.
And it does?
Yeah, Facebook runs on PHP. Could you imagine if someone was able to get an arbitrary file to execute or found some way of exploiting a path traversal?
But in a URL to have your event name Wave PHP, I think you could test for that.
I even tried
Wave, or you could ban it.
I even tried Wave PHP Conference, where PHP was in the middle of the word. It was all one word. It said Wave PHP Conference, and it wouldn't allow that either.
I wonder if that's because there's an event called Wave PHP set up.
Well, that wasn't the error message I was getting. The error message I was getting was saying it contained a word not permitted. So it was weird. So anyways, the Facebook URL is Wave Conference. I think that's what I settled on, was Wave Conference. No matter what I did, I couldn't get PHP in there. So
I see a Wave PHP conference. It's another event. So there's a Wave PHP event, a Wave PHP conference event, and Wave conference. We have an issue there. We got to fix that.
Wait a minute. You see all that on Facebook?
Yeah, just search Wave PHP.
I only got the one result. I don't know what Facebook you're on there, John.
Oh, hey, what is this? Wave PHP conference at Mission Bay, San Diego. All events. Oh, we're on a website somewhere. All events has us now.
That might be through Eventbrite. I wonder.
Probably. So, wait, you went to Facebook and did a search for Wave PHP?
Yeah, we probably shouldn't be doing this while we're talking.
No, this is what the podcast is about. Yeah, I'm with Thomas.
No, it is bad because Eric says his passwords out loud as he types them. It's just a weird. So we probably shouldn't.
I do not say password every time I type my password.
So I'm okay. Maybe I'm just looking at the two events. I see
those are both
our
ours.
logo.
Right. Those are both ours.
Right. There's two events set up right now.
Why are there two events?
Attend both.
Yeah. Oh, but I think one of them is from. I think one of them is from. I don't know. I don't know why there's two events.
I don't even know how to get to the Wave Conference page. I've tried a couple times.
Click on.
I go to Wave Conference. If I go to Wave Conference 2018, it's for Wave Church in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Just as good.
So if you go to facebook.com/Wave Conference, that doesn't take you there?
But why can't I search for Wave Conference?
Yeah, it does. I don't understand what your problem is, John.
I wasn't trying in the URL.
This is the newest section of our podcast called Things That Should Have Been Discussed Off Air.
Things that should be cut out ASAP. Things I hope our editor can take care of.
You remember that groovy new format we're talking about, where we just talk about stuff we're actually doing?
Stream of consciousness.
Yeah, this is the crap we're doing.
Yeah, it's just sitting on your phone while you're in the bathroom. That's what we are now.
Who does that?
That looks cool.
Nobody does that.
Let's look at Facebook.
All right.
Stop.
All right.
What have you guys been doing this week? What else?
Working on Wave PHP. That's pretty much it.
I'm throwing you a bone out there.
So go ahead, John.
So for the second time for one of our clients, a little over a year ago, I submitted a pull request to get the code base to a point where it could be PHP 7 ready. They're using a very old data objects library and heavily reliant on the MySQL functions, which everyone knows been dead forever now. And I refactored everything to use PDO, which touched the library they were using very heavily. And of course, that's a very scary change. And to this date, a year later, it's still not accepted. So I decided, let me rethink my approach here. And decided to refactor this time just using MySQLi. Instead, made the PR much smaller, much more fathomable to accept. So hopefully, and the nice part is all the code changes work in PHP 5.6. So I'm hoping that they'll accept it, get it released, and then start putting up some PHP 7 servers. I've got a whole plan laid out. test it in dev first, test it with their customer service people so that they're not impacting real users yet, and then slowly impact users. So I'm really looking forward to that. Really want to keep them moving forward. I don't want to get stagnant. For those people that don't know, when I signed on with this client, what's it been now? 5 years, Eric? Over about 5.5 years. The main code base that they were using was on PHP 4. So that became a joke in our circle for a few years.
Still is.
Well, it took me a little bit. Got them off of 4 on the 5.2, 5.3 at the time. And now they're up to 5.6. So just trying to keep that ball moving forward.
Your new nickname with me is John Pull Request Congdon. You have more open pull requests than anyone I've ever heard of.
It's funny at times and sad at other times. So the client that we have, they have a big team. They have 7 or 8 developers now. I'm just one developer on the team, and I'm not sure exactly why. I don't know if I just open pull requests that are like not understood, so maybe I just write that bad of code. But they last I looked, I had 41 of the 100 open pull requests.
Oh my god!
Wow. So our team on another client that I managed a little closer than that client, they were giving me a hard time because I keep riding their ass because they have like 12 PRs open on one of the clients, and I'm like, why are these PRs open
that long? You're right.
I am definitely of the mindset that, you know, if you submit a PR, it's done. It's ready to be pulled in for the final round of testing. And if that's not done within a week or two, that PR is now stale and should probably get deleted and reopened when it is ready.
My latest stats are 35 out of 81.
Yeah, you're dominating the market. I think it'd be nice if GitHub had a pull request stale /rot meter where it
or even I totally like that, or just some sort of aging on the PR where it says you can easily see, hey, this PR has been open for 120 days.
You just look at the PR. It shows
it
open up.
It needs like an emoji.
My oldest one was opened November 10th, 2016, so almost a year old at this point. Only because the one from 2015 was just closed.
Actually, I guess I would like to see it in the list. Like when I pull up the list, is there a way to sort by age, sort by oldest? But I still can't see how old that is.
Yeah,
and
I
think open April 18th. Yeah. Ooh,
and I think if you measured the divergence of the code that PR touches, you could use that to age it. So you could say, yeah, this PR is in an active section of code, and that code got changed 10 times this week. You need to merge it before it goes completely rotten and can't be merged at all.
They have that.
Yep.
Your branch list shows you that.
Yeah, it does still tell you that it's able to merge it.
Or it tells you where their conflicts are, which is actually a nice new feature in GitHub, because it didn't used to show you that.
Maybe I should use GitHub more.
Yeah, so it does show you all that. So I guess all that is there. Yeah, I need to use.
You just don't have to worry about it because you don't have 100 open PRs.
So it actually shows you the year, because I only see like the month and day, because everything's within that current year.
It actually says published by John Congdon Sr. at the oldest one, and then it goes through the generations on who the maintainer for that was.
So for the record, our oldest open PR right now in this client is opened by John. The oldest 2 PRs for this client is opened by John. So I think I need to keep those there.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just John. Maybe it's like Like when you try to smell if milk is bad and you can't tell, so you just decide not to use it.
No, I just happened while we're talking, I was looking, and there are 2 PRs older than my oldest one with the client, so it's not just me.
There you go. Glass is half full.
Yeah, they're both by Steve Wozniak.
Fun.
I do want to shift gears a little bit here. Mexico City had a pretty big earthquake. If you guys follow that, yeah. And I have heard from some listeners in that area. So just want to make sure, hope everybody's okay down there. If you listen to the show, I hope you're still listening. I hope everything's all right. And give us a tweet and let me know how things are going down there.
It's sad. I think they're still finding survivors today.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's
heart-wrenching. I mean, we live in California, which is famous for their earthquakes, and I've historically always told my friends back east, it's like earthquakes are so, like, we've had issues with hurricanes recently here in the U.S., and those are so much more intimidating to me because you see them forming, you see them bearing down on you, and they just come at you. And they're like, well, yeah, but you have time to run. And it's like, yeah, but
most people don't run.
Exactly. And earthquakes out here, for the most part, aren't that bad, and you can anticipate them. By the time you realize what's happening, and you process the fact that no, there isn't a freight train running outside the front of your house, that you're in an earthquake, the earthquake is typically over. But occasionally you have these bad ones, like they just had down in Mexico City. Years back during the World Series, we had a really bad one up in San Francisco, and we had a pretty
bad one. As far as San Francisco earthquakes go, that one wasn't that bad.
No, that one was very bad. What are you talking about? The one during the World Series?
There was the one that's still described as the Great San Francisco Earthquake, which destroyed the entire city.
My heart just wrenches for people because, yes, earthquakes hit you so quickly, and that the idea of a building falling down on you is just got to be terrifying. So I really hope everybody's okay and everybody's families are okay.
Yeah, I was listening to the radio, and there was a BBC interviewer talking to the mayor of Mexico City, and the interviewer asked, in such an earthquake-prone area, why don't you have all of the buildings with a much more sophisticated earthquake protection in them? And the mayor of Mexico City just sort of went, dude, we don't have the most money, like
we have a wall to pay for crying out loud.
Yeah. But they do have an early warning system that I know was very effective for the 8.1 earthquake a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it sucks. I do agree.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys a question. Moving on, don't want to be too much of a downer for the show. So we had a longtime member of the SDPHP user group show up today. John and I do a weekly co-work day at a local restaurant where anybody's welcome to come join us and work for the day. Typically, a lot of the Diego Dev people take it as an opportunity to get together and co-work together, which is fun. We had a very big turnout of Diego Dev people today, but we had a member from the San Diego PHP user group who showed up, who we hadn't seen in a long time.
A few years.
Easily. Yeah. And the last time we'd seen him, he was very energetic. He was in school. He was, kind of still trying to figure out what he wanted to do for his life, and was, looking at coding and development and systems administration. and he was very enthusiastic, and so it turns out.
Before you continue on, and he was one of the few people early on in our group. We relied on donations to help fund food or drinks, or even meetup.com. Diego Dev wasn't around to pay for some of that stuff, so we had users that contributed some money. We did get a little bit of support from some job listings and things like that, but he was one of the first people to actually step up and donate money to the group, which I don't know if he knows that we know, but obviously we do. It meant a lot to us back then.
Yeah. So it turns out he's done with school. He's actually gotten into the industry. He's a coder. He's a developer. He does systems administration. And I kind of got the impression that the company he's working for was kind of like his first real development job, systems admin job that he had. And I had a real interesting conversation with him because he was struggling with really identifying his he was really struggling identifying himself as part of his company. So he was he had a hard time differentiating, like saying, okay, how do I show people my accomplishments without he felt like he had this burden to apologize for mistakes that he felt his company might have made while trying to explain what he does. And I was trying to have the conversation with him of, listen, you are not your company.
Equifax.
Names are being withheld. No, he doesn't work for Equifax. But that's a perfect example, right? So let's abstract that away a little bit. Let's say you are a developer that worked for Equifax. I worked for Sony as a system admin during the time of some of their bigger public hacks. So I felt like I was talking a little bit from experience on the way you're differentiating yourself from the organization you're working for, in fumbles or missteps that organization might have made. We've all worked for companies that we're not necessarily completely proud of everything that company has done, and we never
want to exclusively. I've done that.
No, not exclusively. You haven't.
Well, before my grandparents died, it was exclusively. Because I was told in no uncertain terms by my parents, do not tell grandma what you do for a living.
Okay, well, you work in a more controversial field, but the organization you work for is very reputable, right? They're like higher tier in
this one is
adult industry, right? But you have worked for shadier people.
Oh yeah! Oh my goodness!
Yeah. So where Eric's getting with this, though, is he's thinking in the future, what happens when I go to interview, and he's identifying so much with the company he's with that he's afraid that why would they ever hire me, because this company, blah blah blah. I work for Equifax. I'm applying for another job. Equifax was just hacked. Why would they ever hire me? Type of thing. And it's like Eric did an awesome job talking to him and trying to, bring him back off the ledge and say, listen, you are not that company. You're advocating for yourself. You're going to interview it. You're going to show what you can do. You need to make sure you have code up on GitHub. The things that we know because we've been in the industry. When you go to hire somebody, you look at their GitHub page first to find out what kind of coder they are.
Oh shit! I hope that's not true.
So anyway, he did an awesome job talking to this guy.
I think
so. Eric started telling a story about how awesome a job he did. just want to be clear. The moral of the story is, boy, I'm great.
Listen to what I did today.
Where I was leading was, what sort of advice would you give a person like this?
Talk to Eric.
What sort of advice, boy? No, I've actually had to go through a lot of this kind of conversation with my wife lately, because she started working after raising children for 10 or 12 years now without having a job. And she's coming into all sorts of problems with HR and, what does she say about herself? How does she talk about herself highly without sounding like she's bragging? And how do you explain the work that you did as a volunteer for schools as if it were real work that really validated your experience? And they're the same sort of tricks and tips, which is that understand that you're talking to people and that you're talking about yourself and your experience, not the company that you used to work for. That's just where you used to work. If you're the CTO of Equifax, yeah, you're kind of burned now, right? But if you're a junior system
but you sold a lot of stock, so you're probably set.
Yeah, you're good.
Because you sold those stock early, because you had a heads up on that.
Allegedly. But yeah, it's just that people talk to people. The corporations are only important when you look at the business card. In the end, you're still dealing with people, and always treat it that way.
Yeah.
I like that. I like what you said. You're promoting yourself. Talk about yourself. Talk about your accomplishments. Advocate for yourself. And that's all that really matters.
Yeah. And when you do a performance review, write down what was in the performance review, because that's the kind of stuff that belongs in a resume. If it's good, if it's a good report back, that's the kind of thing that someone who's going to be hiring you again is going to want to see as well.
Oh, I hope I never have to write a resume again.
I think you're set. I mean,
it terrifies me, the thought of having to, the thought. So it goes both ways. The thought of having to go out and try to find another job terrifies me. I mean, it's like, man, I don't even know how I would do that now. And then at the same time, as weird as it sounds, I had this happen to me a while back. I forget exactly all the circumstances, but things were not going great with one of our clients. And I had that like drowning sensation. And I remember thinking to myself, if I didn't own the fucking company, I would just walk away right now. This is an opportunity where I would just walk away. It's like owning a company is, I've discovered there's this weird sensation of, well, shit, I can't just go find another job now. I can't stop this train. I'm on it, and it's going down this tunnel, whether I wanted to or not. So it's been kind of a weird blessing and curse sort of scenario. True. So yeah, that's good. The only other thing, and it kind of occurred to me when I was talking to this member, was that as developers, we always talk about how important GitHub profiles are. And a lot of developers don't necessarily work on public repos. And so the thing I told him is, even if it's just doing a couple of demo apps and making it clear to the people looking at it, hey, this is a demo app so that you understand my philosophies, you understand the design patterns I use and how I attack problems. Doing a blog application or doing a CMS or a social networking application and just getting those repos out there. Ideally they need to be functional, but they don't need to be completely polished. But something that gives a potential employer something to look at, where they can say, oh, okay, I see what you did here. And like I said, even if you make it clear, hey, this is not meant for public use, this is just me as part of my resume. You should, if you want to be a developer, you really need to get some of your code public. If you can't make anything you currently work on public, then mock up some apps and get them public.
I think it's first, if you can't put your actual code public, try to contribute to open source first.
I
if you
agree
can
with
do
that,
that,
yes.
that one, you're contributing to the community, making the community stronger, and you're showing off your skills. Do that first. And if you really just, I mean, if you have time to write a demo app, you should have time to do open source. But if you really can't find something to contribute to, then do a demo app. Especially if you're the type that really wants to practice. If you're learning a new design pattern, you want to practice what you're reading about, put it into some code and put it up on GitHub. Especially since public repos are free, you just get something out there.
Unless you're bad at coding. You also have to do that level of self-evaluation, where should this be found by people? Does it make me look good or bad?
So you say I should take down my repos? Is that what you're telling me, Thomas?
No, I'm just saying I've realized that after editing the podcast for a couple months. Sometimes I say stuff that I need to cut from the podcast.
So if you want to put a demo blog app up, just go steal WordPress and put it up in your repo and say, "Hey, I wrote this."
Yeah.
I'm sure you get lots of kudos for that.
Fork it, minify it, and publish it. They'll never know until the first vulnerability that your site shares with WordPress for some reason.
Fun. So
speaking of Equifax,
do you guys use Laravel Valet?
No,
I do.
I use
it almost exclusively now.
And you use the .dev extension on it?
I do. Yeah. I know it's going to be a problem, right?
I know. It's crazy.
So it turns out Google actually owns the .dev extension. And
the
.dev
top level domain.
TLD, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the alternatives.
a lot of people use .dev for the local development environment, and Valet uses it by default. Now you can change that, and it was fun there for a while. I actually had the .dev domain associated to my homestead, and for my Valet, I had changed it to .ddev for Diego Dev. I thought that was cool. I'm like, I should just keep that DDev.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I might need to do that anyways, because it sounds like Google is going to start to put some DNS in place for the .dev domains now.
It's not so much the DNS. It's more about what they're changing within Chrome. They're enabling HSTS on it.
Right.
So HSTS, I don't fully understand it completely, but I think in a
like
broad spectrum, it's all it does is say, if you go to this domain, you have to go through HTTPS. No questions asked.
Yes.
So that means,
and on top of that, you can't just do the default, ignore this cert. I understand, go anyway. It says you have to have a real cert here to proceed.
I don't think that's true.
No, he's right.
From my understanding, that's the issue at hand. Because I use dev domains all the time on HTTPS, and I just click the advanced, and I agree. Just
right.
The 2 clicks get me through this. But if it's an HSTS, I don't think that it works.
Now, see, my question is, why? Because Google has not responded to this yet, and there isn't really an answer as to why all .dev domains must be HTTPS
because they own the TLD.
Secured.
So that's what I was about to say. That with that mindset, that means they must not be planning on releasing that domain to anybody but Google properties.
They might have another idea. There's a lot of shit going on the web right now. I mean, weird stuff. So, along with this, Google Chrome is also incrementally distrusting semantic security certificates because they found that Symantec wasn't being smart about their issuing of security certs. And then the W3C, which is the sort of governing body, has passed a DRM measure to make a DRM standard in these web protocols that basically everyone who's a member of the W3C said no, no, no. They ignored it and did a closed door session among the corporations that contribute to the W3C and overruled the users.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the EFF dropped out of the W3C. If you don't know what the EFF, it's the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They believe in the free and open web just as a fundamental concept. So there's a lot going on the internet right now where people are talking about, what do we do? People are taking over that shouldn't be taking over. Do we fork the internet somehow? Do we create an internet that's run by a different governing organization that no one can just decide, yeah, we're going to have restrictive content that customers aren't allowed to use? One of the big complaints about the DRM stuff was that it made it illegal to check for security vulnerabilities in this new code. So the EFF was just asking, hey, we understand that there are compromises that need to be made, but making it, continuing to make it illegal to even look into the code that does these kinds of hardware encodings, that's not right for the customer. You can't put code on a customer's machine that they can't look at. And the W3C disagreed, which is a pretty damning statement for an open standards group. Because it's the least open of anything. And if you didn't know, security researchers who do work on encryption protocols, if the encryption protocol is owned by a corporation, they are breaking the law. It is a federal crime. There hasn't been a lot of prosecution, but it's been selective. If you look at somebody like Aaron Swartz, that is not the right name. Damn it.
You can look it up.
I gotta put it. Yeah, I gotta.
Yeah.
Shut up. My Echo just decided to start talking to me.
I thought you were talking to the wave. I'm like, wow, that just got real uncomfortable for me.
Oh my god, I cannot find it.
Come on, Thomas. Otherwise, you need to move on.
I ain't got all night.
It is Aaron Swartz.
Hey, pick it up again.
Yeah, so Aaron Swartz, who was put in jail at the age of 26 because he found a vulnerability in a university documentation library where if you just left out the destination URL, you were given an index of all of the documents. FBI decided to go after him, put him in jail, and he ended up killing himself in jail. And was that
the Reddit guy? That wasn't the Reddit guy, because there was more involved than just that. Actually, there's a great documentary on that.
There is a great documentary on that, but it really is an example of how selectively these laws are applied and how he was being made an example of by the judicial system. He was one of the early founders. He was one of the early builders of Reddit. Really bright kid.
So I don't want to challenge you too much on this, and we don't need to go too far down this dark path. But I am kind of, I do get sensitive about these topics. So first thing, the prosecution of him was completely wrong. Okay, but I don't necessarily. And what he was doing wasn't completely right. So he skirted this very weird kind of line where he felt that these documentations should be free. So he had set up these kind of systems that were pulling all the documents down and saving them to a hard drive, but he wasn't authorized to do that. So, my point being, he wasn't completely right with what he's doing. Fundamentally, I believed in what he was doing. I don't think anybody was necessarily trying to make an example of him, although they did go above and beyond kind of doing surveillance and trying to catch him in the act than I think they would have had he not been somebody quote unquote famous. I think that was kind of his Achilles heel, that he was a notable character in the industry. And so they had set up surveillance cameras to try to catch him, changing out these hard drives and all this other crap, it was bullshit. They put way too much effort into catching this very minor thing that wasn't what he was doing really wrong. I mean, we never got an opportunity to debate it in court because it never got to court. The guy had mental issues. Unfortunately, like you said, he did take his life. Should he have been in jail? Probably not. But I don't think it was like a witch hunt on him either. We shouldn't position the story like that. They never even had that opportunity. It's a tragic story by far. Yeah. And I think it really needs to kind of talk towards, because he felt, again, I forget the details of what he was doing, but like the documents
this was MIT research that was government funded that they were selling access to.
But it was also free documentation too. It was only free. Like a normal person can only get like a free documentation per download or some weird. There were some weird restrictions on it, and his thinking was, no, this is free information. It needs to be free.
Right. And if you rate limit something that's free, then it's not really free, is it?
Right.
So yeah. I mean, what I'm saying
great
is
story. Didn't mean to sidetrack that. I just get sensitive on things like that.
You can't sidetrack a sidetrack. That's just fair game. No, I think that the internet is turning into these sort of dark corners right now, and that's not even including net neutrality, Ajit Pai, and the lawsuit that's currently being filed against the FCC for ignoring the input of the American public. Mm-hmm. And then you get into Russia buying ads on Facebook that are targeted towards people. Then you get into all sorts of false Twitter accounts that are leading national discussions that turn out to be Russian propagandists. Things are dark. So who knows what direction this is going to go. This is going to take the web, and maybe moving whole top-level domains to mandatory secure are a good thing. One of the articles I have is about encrypted web connections that I take for granted that my web connection, when it's secure between me and a server, that it's actually secure. But there was a recent study that found that between 4 and 10% of all encrypted web traffic is using a man-in-the-middle certificate that is not actually using the certificate, given by the website. And to me, that's crazy. 1 in 10 web requests.
Scary.
Yeah.
I saw you post that, and I'm just flabbergasted by that statistic.
Yeah, and this isn't just circumventing cryptography. This is intentionally weakening cryptography and nobody noticing.
But
a lot of.
When I saw this, sorry, John, didn't mean to interrupt you. But when I saw this, I wonder if it was also taking into account like SSL acceleration or these these smart routers that offload the HTTPS onto the smart router and then maybe does unencrypted or does another encryption back to the servers, which is kind of common in corporate environments.
See, but yeah, that's fucking weird to me though. Like even in a corporate environment, I find that fucking weird.
That's very common practice though. And so that was my question is I'm wondering if it's taking those into account, that number doesn't seem that high because when you have these corporations,
it is taking that into account explicitly.
Okay, so those numbers really aren't that bad. I don't think, because again, when you're sending even Facebook, I would be surprised that if I sent an HTTPS request to Facebook, if when it hits Facebook's data center, if that request stays encrypted as it's bouncing around servers, I'm almost guaranteeing you.
This is on the client side. This is the clients are being interrupted by their own corporation where they work. This isn't Facebook.
Well, the big one I see on this list is Avast, which is antivirus software. So it's basically putting itself in the middle, trying to protect you.
But that is not how you protect somebody when it comes to cryptography. The one thing everyone should know.
I agree.
Do not roll your own cryptography and do not have a single source of failure for your cryptography. And if it looks like, 25% of this 10% of encrypted traffic that's being man-in-the-middled, if that gets violated, 2% of all traffic just becomes open traffic. I'm not saying that Avast AV can just suddenly have some fatal flaw in it, but that only did happen 3 times today with Chrome plugins that are installed by millions, and CC Cleaner, which was infected for several months and was distributing malware to millions of computers. So it's great that CC Cleaner, which literally does this task, got infected because it sets out the example of, you can't trust. You have to give it to the origin and the destination only. If there's a man in the middle, it is fundamentally unsafe.
I agree. The 4 to 10% is higher than I would have thought. Like I when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's scary. But when you start taking into account antivirus, which they are trying to help, they shouldn't be. They should be out of it at that point.
Yeah, keep your grubby mitts off my data.
Yeah. Scary.
This doesn't surprise me. And I mean, I'm trying to make sure I clearly understand it. Is we're not saying, or are you saying? So when you say, hey, when I send an encrypted HTTPS request somewhere, it shouldn't be getting decrypted and then sent, in plain text.
It's not getting sent in plain text. Like Avast is probably, you don't know. That's the problem. With the man in the middle, you don't know what's happening. For antivirus software, my assumption is you're connecting to Avast. The connection's secure there. They are connecting to Facebook securely. So it's secure all the way except for that millisecond is within Avast where they're looking at your content and you're assuming that it's only looking at it to tell you there's a virus or not. Right.
So
that's a man-in-the-middle attack.
That's actually yeah. No, I get it, but that's again actually more common than I think you guys would realize. And it's not. Yes, it feels weird. Yes, we don't necessarily have to agree with it, but it's not like there's now sitting your traffic unencrypted anywhere. And
I agree.
It's just going into a black box, and we don't know what that black box does.
But that happens anyways, though, Thomas.
That
was my point. That was my point with my Facebook analogy, right? Is your request is sent to Facebook, it's encrypted, but once it hits Facebook's data center, they unencrypt that for speed, for all sorts of reasons.
Of course.
When it's in their data center, it's bouncing around servers unencrypted.
But the difference in that case is I'm talking to Facebook. I understand.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying there. Yeah,
I don't want something between me and Facebook decrypting it. What happens within Facebook is different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hey, I figured out a way we can raise money for Wave PHP. Is that too hard of a right turn?
Well, no, my ears are perked up. I want to hear this.
We can run a JavaScript-based cryptocurrency miner on the Wave PHP website.
We do that already.
Oh, good.
Who does it? Duh.
Yeah, boy, it's like everyone now. All right, no, we're gonna have to talk about that next week because we're crunching on time. Unless you okay, fine, no, fine.
Wait,
I'm gonna take.
I'm not saying this.
You brought it up.
No, I'm gonna take 5. Use restroom. When I get back,
you're like a regular individual, man.
When I get back, cue up the cash register sound effect because we are talking cryptocurrency.
I think I have one of those.
Well, if he's gonna walk away, I'm gonna go get another beer.
I think I'm gonna get some scotch.
Hooah! What are you drinking?
Syntax.
A nerd beer?
Nope.
Oh, Syntax. Gotcha.
I like that.
That's fancy. I wish there was a coder beer brand.
I think that's it. Syntax is a perfect coder beer.
It's a great name.
What would be more perfect than that?
That's what he was saying, but that's not really what we were thinking.
Right. So we just... All right. Can we do a clap check real quick?
3, 2, 1.
Thank you, John. Very helpful. What? For some reason, you're the one you're always off. Or maybe it's just Eric's the one counting. I don't know. Whatever. All right, roll that wonderful Grateful Dead.
Footage.
Yeah, that Pink Floyd music that we can't license. It's cryptocurrency time.
It's been running for a while.
Oh.
Go ahead. Do that cryptocurrency again.
It's time for cryptocurrency talk. I hear nothing.
Me either.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah. You'll hear it. I just have it right now.
I missed you last week, John, because there was some good crypto news. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but the Pirate Bay was running an embedded cryptocurrency miner, JavaScript-based cryptocurrency miner, for a little while, and people just started to lose their minds.
I did hear about that.
Yeah. And then the Pirate Bay said, hey, we're the Pirate Bay, you idiots. And everyone went, oh, yeah, I guess that does make sense. So
we're helping you steal content. The least you could do is let us make more money off of it.
Yeah. You jerks don't click the ads, so we're doing something.
So explain what happened and what they got out of it.
So if you're like me, if you're a headline surfer, then you've got the completely wrong idea of what is happening here. So the Pirate Bay ran a test of a JavaScript library that was created by a group called CoinHive, coin-hive.com. This is a 100% legitimate, customer-facing coin mining system. They do not intend to have their code injected maliciously. They don't want people to be mining and not know it. They don't want CPUs peaked at 100%. They just want to help people make money off of their websites. And they want to make some cash on the side too. The thing that makes this possible is that they are mining a new type of coin. This coin only has a doubled efficiency on a GPU. So CPU mining is perfectly viable on this coin. If you go to their website, coin-hive.com, you can test it out. It'll tell you how many hashes per second you're getting on your machine. They'll tell you everything that you want to know about their payout system, why they're using the Monero coin, how do they plan on implementing this for customers, and how they tested it on their own website before they ever went public with it, and were able to make a pretty good amount of money with it without interfering with customers' enjoyment of the website. They even measured metrics like cannibalism of memberships and ad click rates. So thorough work done. And I'm a proponent, kinda, but it does bring us into a terrifying new age of monetizing idle devices. What do you think?
Fascinating. So has your company already implemented this?
I can neither confirm it or deny this.
So the whole point is it's running in the background. Nobody notices.
The point is that you don't notice, but not that you're unaware. If it slows down the website, no one's going to be happy. Mm-hmm. If it pegs your CPU at 100%, no one's going to be happy. Which is how this was discovered, is that the configuration on the JavaScript client was wrong on the Pirate Bay, and it was pegging people's CPUs. But that was not intended. It was supposed to just casually scrape a little. And
so the Pirate Bay was trying to make as much money as they could, so they probably
they said it was accidental.
Of course, they said it was accidental.
It could be. Any number.
They were trying to game it. They were trying to get more money out of it.
Right, but they're pirates. If they were trying to game it, they'd say we were trying to game it, idiots. They don't. They do not care about public perception in the slightest bit.
I'm actually surprised they're still around.
But I have seen the conversation move from "is this morally right or wrong?" to "what if your next virtual assistant was free because when you weren't using it, it was mining coins. It was using electricity to mine coins," and then it sort of goes further than that real quickly because anything with a functioning CPU can just spend its idle time mining.
Sure. Have you heard of the Internet of Things? But what if your light bulb was mining for coins when it was turned on? And
sure.
So that's the question: is where does this
set Office to 25%?
Well, the question is, are your CPUs are your cycles right? Let's talk through it. Beyond just mining and Bitcoin, does Cisco have the right to leverage their devices that they sell you for something else that they want to do with what they decide are idle cycles on your Cisco device?
Now,
I mean,
in the last 10 years, I've noticed a trend of people paying attention to kilowatt hour usage. And with mining, this has become even more critical to the process of mining coins.
Yeah, but people only pay attention to that when they're buying a refrigerator, AC unit. They don't. If I were buying a light bulb, I'm not paying attention to that.
Right, but if you were buying a light bulb and the review for the light bulb says for some reason this light bulb uses 1,000 kilowatt hours per day, then there would be an investigation. There would be, I mean, these CPU cycles are not transparent. If you look for them,
but that's my point, though. Let's say that happens. Let's go back to the Cisco, and it turns out all Cisco routers are scraping, are being leveraged for something, for Cisco Bitcoins, right? And they're mining. I mean, let's keep it mining because that seems to be where everybody's head is. Are mining for Cisco Bitcoins. So that becomes the question. Well, are they held accountable for anything? Can we sue them for how much of my electricity they used for their gain? I mean, this is like the weird, unexplored. There are no laws on this stuff. This is the wild web.
I'll tell you what laws this reminds me of. What this sudden new territory reminds me of organic food and the 20-year process of defining the term organic. Right now when you buy a light bulb, you will see UL certification on it. You will see 6 or 7 different certifications on it. Is there going to be a does not crypto mine certification for electronic devices? If it has a CPU in it, it has to be licensed, and it has to have the 0, 1, 2, or 3. And if it's 3, then it's going to cost you this many watt hours a year because it's doing crypto mining, but it's going to be this much cheaper. And with people starting to install their own solar panels and sell their energy back to the energy companies, maybe that's what you do want. Maybe you do want to buy devices that are going to be cheaper because they're mining and you're producing the energy through your solar energy, and you've got a worksheet.
Or depending on what they're doing. I mean, this is not new. There was a time where you could download a little application on your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3, and when you weren't using it, you could help look for UFOs.
Wait, PlayStation is up to 4?
Yes, it is. Actually, 4 Pro now.
Yeah. What? So I mean, this whole idea of shared resources to achieve a bigger goal is something we've been in the industry working on for years. So yeah, I think you're right though, Thomas. I mean, I can see a time where that needs to be disclosed. Where if I'm buying a smart light bulb, if I will pay a cheaper price if you disclose the fact that you're leveraging that CPU to do something else when I'm not using it. That could be a very valid approach of some sort of certification of when you buy this device, you own the device, or no, they're still leveraging some of the cycles in the device for something else, and you might not know what that is, or you will know what it is. Here's what it is. It's this, that, and the other thing. I think this is going to, as the Internet of Things grow, as we continue to have this dispersed compute power out there, as small as it may be, you're going to see companies that say, hey, we have 4 million light bulbs out there right now. All we need is a slice of that compute power from the light bulbs, and we can do fantastic things. I see that.
But the problem is the end user is not going to notice it. They're not going to, even if there's these certifications, most people do not look at those.
The only way that the end user notices is that people like us campaign either for or against it, or we campaign for proper regulation.
It's not even a matter of noticing. It's not a matter of end users noticing. It could be an accepted way of life. But for us that do understand it, we want that documentation there. So whether my mom or my sister ever looks at, the next time they go buy a microwave, whether that microwave is mapping their house based on the certification is irregardless. The fact that we do the legwork and we help define this.
That was an awesome reference.
Laws. We help define those laws that say, hey, we know this is happening. This is impactful. We need to make sure it's just like any other warning label that's put out there. May cause cancer. Don't take these pills with alcohol. Who cares? I take pills with scotch all the time. It makes it taste better. But the fact that it's there means somebody has done the work. It means somebody has done the work and said, hey, this is something that needs to be known. It needs to be documented, and people need to have access to this and visibility to it. I think you're onto something, Thomas.
And this ties into...
You need to start a campaign. GoFundMe. Start a GoFundMe page.
This ties into what we were talking about with Chrome earlier with what is the obligation of Chrome to notify the user that this is occurring. They're doing all this integration, this sideways integration for their domains and for semantic certificates and stuff like that. But right where I see the secure symbol and the green lock, I want to see a symbol that represents if this page is trying to monetize my CPU. I have a lot of content that I use.
How do they know that? I can write a horrible JavaScript right now that pegs your CPU to 100% and not be monetizing it.
I think the key is that kind of regulation. Is that if you put that regulation in place and then you have something like Chrome or like the browsers managing that regulation, notifying the end user. Right now, how do you know that your secure lock really is secure? Well, we just said that 10% of the time it isn't, but the other 90% of the time it does actually represent correct security. And I want to see the same thing for cryptocurrency mining, is that if somebody's trying, because this group, CoinHive, is trying to do it legitimately. They're not trying to hide their intentions in the slightest bit, and they don't want to. And because they're coming out so open and honest about what it is that they're doing, I think Google should support them and say, absolutely, this is a valid monetization method, and we will help you integrate into a browser so that customers can see their current hash rates if they're on a site that they want to support without looking at ads. Because that is the alternative. Do you want to look at ads? I have an ad blocker specifically because I don't want to look at ads, and I've had one for 15 years. But if someone says, I'm going to use your extra CPU cycles and I'm going to keep it low and not bother you with it at all, I am totally fine with that. If Reddit wants to kill all the ads on Reddit and replace it with 10% of my CPU cycles, sure, you can have.
But that's the problem. They wouldn't. They would keep the ads and then still do your 10%, and you would not have any.
But they're not keeping the ads
because
ad blockers are so predominant.
But more importantly, again,
John is having a revelation.
The reason
CoinHive has their own. I can't even think of the word now.
Extension?
No.
Prostitutes.
When you get the "I'm not a robot" CAPTCHA, they have their own CAPTCHA.
Yeah,
they have their own CAPTCHA that does mining for them for a few seconds to say, "Okay, you're a real person."
Yeah. No, they're straight up. This coin, the Monero coin, and this company are going to be a big fucking deal. These guys, for all the furor against what they're doing this week, they are going to be big money next year.
But again, higher level, like we were trying to take this beyond just your Bitcoin mining scenario and implementing the regulations. To that kind of point is this also helps leverage action against a company that tries to sidestep these regulations or tries to manipulate the system and take advantage of a customer without, meeting the regulation of saying, hey, you were supposed to let the customer know that you're using some of your CPU for something else. I really think you're onto something, Thomas.
It's a can of worms, but the thing about a can of worms is you can do a lot with it. This is
like
not
fish.
necessarily
Fish.
or eat gok. I prefer my gok fresh.
Okay,
I just think this is something that I think the nerds need to pay attention to.
We started a movement, Thomas, right here on PHP Ugly.
I just had a movement. Note to self: edit that out.
TMI.
Cut
TMI.
that. Paste it
Crop
into the
check.
intro sequence.
Oh my god!
You ever done that? You ever just been so excited you shit yourself?
No.
Not yet, fortunately.
It has to have. I know it happens to kids. I'm wondering.
No, I don't think it does, Thomas.
Oh no, it happens.
You might want to have your kids checked out.
It clearly happens to babies, where they.
Oh, babies! Come on.
Yeah.
Because they can't.
I'm saying there has to be a level of being excited that makes an adult person
they shit themselves up even when they're not excited. That's what they do.
Yeah. What a life.
Okay, we need to wrap up the show.
What gave you that idea?
Yeah. But we're going to wrap it up on a positive note. I think we did a little doom and gloom. I think your Bitcoin mining DRM crap was doom and gloomish.
No, my doom and gloom was earlier.
More and more of the show is becoming doom and gloom. I'm not appreciating it. You're desensitizing me. You're desensitizing me to the doom and gloom.
Yeah.
But on a more positive note, episode 2 of the PHP podcast has been released with John and I.
The PHP Arc podcast.
It's called
PHP podcast.
The official podcast of PHP Architect. Yeah, that is correct. It marks the end of our little experiment of scripting out the entire show. We got enough feedback back where people don't think they like that, but then again, they haven't really heard us not script it out. So they may very quickly ask us to go back to it. I don't know. So for
my whole thing with the PHP podcast was I thought it was an advertisement for the magazine, and it was giving people a quick insight into what the articles were, what they were about. So to me, the scripting was kind of like a commercial. It was supposed to be like just bam, bam, get through it. But there was a lot of feedback of, no, we don't like that. We want more.
Because this one was an hour long.
Well, that's not our fault. So again,
which is
John
way too long for a podcast.
So John and I's part always hovers around 5 to I think 7 minutes. You know, we are with the exception of the interview. We typically interview one of the people, but as we're doing the reviews of the article, it's very bang, 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 and we get through the whole magazine in like 5 to 6, 7 minutes. And I agree with John. I mean, it was kind of like a teaser to a trailer to a movie. It's just giving you a little bit more insight where you're like, hey, I want to find out more about that. But yeah, it seems like people
next month will be interesting. Let's find out what it's like.
Yeah, people were like, no, we don't care for that much. So we don't have a new format yet. We don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something different.
I still won't be involved. So if that's a concern with anyone out there, let's keep passing it on. I don't have the time Eric has to do 3 podcasts, an annual community event, meetups, run his own company, and drink scotch.
We need an overwhelming response, like, hey, we want Thomas on the podcast.
Oh my God.
So if you want him on there, reach out.
If you want me on PHP Arc podcast, hashtag Tom on Arc.
No, hashtag doom and gloom. Just
hashtag doom. No, because that's already getting hashtagged.
Tweet to PHP Arc doom and gloom. Just hashtag doom and gloom and see what they say. She's like, why the hell are we getting all these damn tweets?
See if we can get the podcast taken away from Eric and John. All right, guys. I think that's a great way to wrap up the episode. I'm Tom Rideout.
I'm John Congan.
Johnson.
Keep it
ugly. Keep it ugly. Woo! Don't
right,
kill recording yet. Don't kill it yet, because I have two things I have to say. Did you see the two new Equifax things this week?